Hi there, how are you doing? I hope you're looking forward to the Leaving Cert. Great fun. If I could do it myself again, I would. My name's Eoin Jackson. I love the Leaving Cert. I've also been involved in getting people through it for the last 25 years and down in the XLC project in Waterford. Now I have a few tips for you in advance of your exams. So firstly, the Leaving Cert, it's been built up to be a very serious exam of being the most important exam you'll ever do in your life, although you could argue the driving test is a more important one and one that you're more likely to fail first time. Anyhow, I suppose one of the most important things to say to you is the Leaving Certificate is not the be all and end all. It's not this huge monster that it's built up to be. And weirdly enough, if you are less anxious and less respectful of it and are more inclined to just have a laugh with it, and for example, in an exam, if you don't know an answer, rather than leaving a blank space, throw down any kind of an answer, even if it's kind of slightly humorous. All they can do is either award marks if it merits some, or not. But if you were to leave it blank, or to kind of leave it lacking, then you're definitely going to get no marks or very few marks for it. So yeah, kind of having a slightly cavalier attitude towards the Leaving Cert, where you're not so worried about it, can be really beneficial if you're able to get into that mindset. However, some other tips I'd have for you is while you're studying, last minute study, the problem with that is some people feel overwhelmed because there's so much to cover in the course. But the simple fact is you're better off thinking small rather than thinking big. If you think of the big picture, it becomes overwhelming. But if you focus on a couple of key things that you think, well, this will probably come up, this will probably come up. If you can look at it that way, and instead of looking at how much you don't know or how much you feel underprepared for, if you get certain things, well, now I know this bit, now I know that bit by bit at a time, that's probably the way to approach it, is of small successes rather than getting overwhelmed by all the things you haven't done. Because there's only so much time left. There's only so much that you're realistically going to be able to do. And when you're actually in the exam, faced with the questions, there's so much will come from your memories of classes over the last 2 years that you'll be okay for some things that you feel you're underprepared for, but actually it'll come from somewhere and you'll be able to do some kind of an answer to it. Right, so as regards your last minute study, I would recommend, depending on what kind of person you are, if you're the kind of person who gets energized by the exams and enjoys to go hard and cram, then absolutely go for that. It's meant to be kind of an unhealthy thing to do, but some personalities, some people they thrive in those situations. If you're that kind of person, go for it. However, try not to get carried away, make sure you're getting sleep, make sure you're getting to eat, don't get completely drunk on exam fever, However, if you're the other kind of person who does not get energized by the exams and you're dreading them and trying to sit down and do some study is a trial, then try and get some kind of a structure going where you're doing something. So it doesn't have to be a huge amount of hours per day. It could be just as little as even 1 hour a day would be enough to keep you ticking over, or even half an hour a day, in all honesty, because the fact is you've put in a slog for not only 6th year and 5th year, but all the years below that since you've been educated. It's all going to build up. It's all in there. Like, your mind is amazing, and there's so many useless facts floating around in there that can be harnessed for your exams, that you actually don't need to kill yourself with study during this period. It doesn't have to be overdrive. Now, what I would do as well is try and keep it entertaining, keep your mind engaged by not spending too long on one thing. Now, that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say. Like, let's say your biology exam is the next morning and all you're interested in doing is looking over biology. There's ways of keeping that fresh, like, say, doing a small bit of reading on one topic and then for half an hour or so. I wouldn't go more than half an hour to maybe 40 minutes on any one thing you're doing. And then go to something that's a completely different part of the course, like the experiment stuff, Like looking up one of your experiments on YouTube would be a different kind of studying experience, even though it is the same subject. But that would be a good way of revising experiments and giving something slightly fresh rather than just reading through notes the whole time. That can get exhausting and counterproductive. Also, another good thing to do, and I don't know if you know this study tip, is if you say have someone like a friend, a family member who you can bounce off, who you can say, okay, I've studied 30 minutes of plant reproduction and now I'd like to get questions back on them. So if you can get someone to ask you questions back on the topic you've just done and see how well you've retained it, that can, assuming that you remember a good bit of it, that could be quite a rewarding part of your study to kind of realise that you've made some progress, that you're getting answering back and remembering things, that's staying in there. A way of doing that actually that's really handy is, those things like chat GTP or similar kind of AI, things like that. If you go on something like that and you can give it a command to say, write a 400 word piece on whatever it is that you need it on and generate 20 questions based on it, then you can use those 20 questions that chat GTP will put out in a couple of seconds and give it to someone else and say, could you please ask me these questions in half an hour, So that if you haven't thought of using those kind of AI things like ChatGPT, they can be really excellent for generating things like that for you to help you with your study. Because the simple fact of the matter is some students, they're not sure how to study. They're not sure of methods of studying. So studying can involve reading through stuff. It can involve asking questions to examine how well you've remembered stuff. It can be to do with visual, where you're looking at some video based on the material you're meant to be studying. Okay, what else do we need to say to you? Yes, another thing to focus on when you're studying is if you can get some leaving cert predictions, and they're available in various different places. I do a set of them myself actually. I should have them up on YouTube soon. But there are predictions of various subjects. They can often help because usually they're listed in order of likelihood of what topic is the most likely one to come up, so it can help structure your last minute study. And if that's the case, I also would check the past examination papers because they're good templates for precisely how they like to ask certain questions and the kind of material that gets asked regularly. Sometimes, depending on the subject, you can look at the paper from 2023 or last year's paper in general. You can look at last year's paper and from that eliminate certain topics that are unlikely to be repeated 2 years in a row. That can sometimes be helpful. All right. Also, you probably know this, I'm sure your teachers have told you this, because of the way the scripts get marked these days, you are better off not using, you're better off not using highlighters or red, but they do require you to use black or blue pen when you're doing your exams. So, aside from that, what I would say to you is, I would not mortgage the present for the future. As in thinking, I need to do this now. This needs to be a very, very hard year, full of self-denial, so that my future will be great in college next year or whatever. Today is important as well. This year is important too. So if there are, for example, a party, big birthday party, or First Holy Communion, or something, or a concert that you wanted to go to, I wouldn't be putting these things off because of the Leaving Cert. The Leaving Cert is not as important as you having a good year this year. That's actually more important. So please do keep that in mind. All the best of luck with the exams. I'll be rooting for you.